Have you ever wondered why spiritual freedom seems to come with so many rules? Why, in a tradition that speaks endlessly of liberation and awakening, there are pages upon pages of precepts, things to do, things not to do, ways to walk, to speak, to eat, to even think? Isn't enlightenment about transcending all boundaries? So why would the Buddha, a being of boundless compassion and wisdom, create what looks like a list of restrictions? That's the question many of us ask when we first encounter the Buddhist precepts. First glance, they appear strict. And kill. And steal. And lie. And misuse sexuality. And cloud the mind with intoxicants. And for monks and nuns, the list grows longer, and writs of detailed rules about daily behavior. Up beneath the surface of it is and dawns, something profound is hidden, a map to inner freedom so luminous, so psychologically precise, that it still transforms lives 2,500 years later. Because here is the truth, the precepts are not chains, they're the key that opens the lock. 1. The misunderstanding of rules. Modern people are allergic to the word rules. We associate it with repression, control, and loss of individuality. We want to be spontaneous, expressive, free. So when we hear that the Buddha taught discipline, many recall, isn't that dogmatic? Isn't that old-fashioned? But here's the paradox. The less discipline you have, the less freedom you truly experience. Think about it. When anger controls you, are you free? When craving drives your choices, are you free? And in fear or greed clouds your judgment, are you acting from freedom or from conditioning? Freedom without wisdom is chaos. The Buddha understood this. He saw that liberation doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from not being ruled by what you want. And that's where the precepts come in. They are not moral commandments handed down from above. They are mirrors and tools to help you see your mind clearly. The precepts is training, not punishment. In Pali, the precepts are called sikkhapada, training rules. They are practices of mindfulness, not prohibitions of morality. Switchering means to cultivate skill, to strengthen awareness. When the Buddha asked his followers not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, and it wasn't because these acts make someone bad. It was because they strengthen delusion. They reinforce separation, fear, and craving, the very roots of suffering. Every precept is a thread that unravels the knot of ego. By following them, you're not trying to please enough, you're protecting your own mind from harm. The first precept, mind harming. Let's begin with the foundation of all morality, the commitment to non-harming. At first, it sounds simple, don't kill. But the depth of this precept is infinite. And unharming is not just about refraining from physical violence, it's about developing a sensitivity so profound that even a harsh word or careless thought feels like a wound you no longer want to inflict. Every being trembles at violence. Every being seeks peace. When you understand this in your bones, compassion naturally rises, and not as an effort, but as an instinct. The Buddha didn't say, be kind because it's good. He showed us that when you stop harming, the mind becomes peaceful. And a peaceful mind is a free mind. 4. The second precept, not taking what is not given. Stealing isn't just about possession, it's about grasping. Each steal time, attention, energy, affection. We take what life hasn't offered willingly. The mind that steals is the mind that fears lack. But when you live in trust, abundance flows naturally. The Buddha taught this precept to dismantle the illusion of scarcity, the idea that you need to take from others to be complete. When you live honestly, when you give as much as you receive, you step out of the economy of greed and into the rhythm of generosity. That rhythm is freedom. 5. The third precept, integrity in relationship. The 5 precepts, it's often stated as to refrain from sexual misconduct. Beneath that phrasing lies something deeper, the commitment to love without exploitation. Every misuse of sexuality, whether through betrayal, manipulation, or indulgence, comes from confusion about what love really is. When love becomes craving, weakling. When love becomes control, we suffocate. When love is rooted in respect and mindfulness, it liberates both giver and receiver. That's why the Buddha placed this precept not to repress desire, but to refine it, to transform lust into intimacy, possession into connection, and attachment into compassion. This is sacred love, the kind that frees instead of binds. 6. The 4th precept, truthful speech. Speech creates worlds. Every word shapes karma, your own and others. When you lie, gossip, or speak harshly, you distort reality. You build a cage made of words. When you speak truthfully, kindly, and wisely, your words become bridges instead of weapons. This precept is not about moral purity, it's about clarity. The Buddha once said, right speech is the echo of right view. When your heart is clear, your words naturally heal. That's freedom of speech, not the freedom to say anything, but the freedom to speak from life. 7. The 5th precept, clarity of mind. Refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. Again, not a rule for purity but for freedom. Because intoxication is not limited to alcohol or drugs. We intoxicate ourselves with distractions, obsessions, ideologies, even relationships. Any state that clouds awareness, that dulls sensitivity, that pulls you away from presence is an intoxication. This precept invites you to live awake. When the mind is clear, you see directly. And when you see directly, wisdom rises. 8. The spirit of all precepts, awareness. Here's the essence of all the precepts. They are not meant to bind behavior but to awaken awareness. Each one is a mindfulness spell, ringing in your daily life. When temptation arises, when anger flares, when you're about to act unconsciously, the precept whispers a pause. That pause is the birthplace of freedom. And precept says protection. Anything, the precepts are restrictions, but they're actually protection. Just as traffic laws don't limit you, they keep you safe. The Buddha understood the psychology of the mind. Without ethical foundation, meditation can become dangerous, used for escape, power, or pride. But when built on the precepts, meditation becomes a tool of purification. Ethics is not the enemy of awakening, it just sits root. And from restraint to joy. At first, the precepts feel like effort. You restrain yourself, you struggle with habits. But over time, restraint transforms into joy. When you stop harming, you stop fearing. When you stop lying, you stop hiding. When you stop stealing, you stop craving. Your life becomes simple, clean, peaceful. The Buddha compared it to tuning a lute, too tight, and the string snaps, loose, and it won't play. The precepts are that perfect tuning discipline balanced with ease. 11. The freedom of a still mind. When your conduct is pure, your mind is light. When your mind is light, meditation deepens naturally. You no longer wrestle with guilt or regret. You sit down, and your heart is already calm. This is why the Buddha called ethics the first stage of the Noble Eightfold Path. Sila leads to samadhi concentration, which leads to pinna wisdom. Each step feeds the next. And the fruit of that practice is liberation, and not the forced freedom of rebellion, but the effortless freedom of peace. 12. The hidden precept, kindness toward yourself. So many practitioners use the precepts as a weapon against themselves. is strive for perfection, then punish themselves for failing. But the Buddha never wanted guilt. He wanted growth. Every time you fall, the precept is not scolding you, it's reminding you, wake up again. The path is not about perfection, it's about presence. The only rule is to keep returning. 13. Why the Buddha created hundreds of rules for monastics. People often wonder, why did the Buddha make so many rules for monks and nuns? 227 for monks, 311 for nuns. It wasn't to control them. It was to protect the self. Each rule arose from real situations, conflicts, misunderstandings, scandals that threatened harmony. The Buddha didn't impose them arbitrarily. He waited until a problem appeared, then created a rule to prevent future suffering. It was compassion in action. He knew that spiritual community is a delicate ecosystem. The precepts preserve its purity, like a garden fence protecting young plants until they grow strong. 14. Freedom within form. The paradox of the path. The more discipline you cultivate, the more freedom you feel. It's like a dancer within the choreography. She finds total expression. The precepts are that choreography. They create the structure within which spontaneity can truly rise. When the mind is unburdened by guilt, regret, or confusion, it can move freely like wine through bamboo. That's not control, that's liberation. 15. The precept is compassion in action. Every precept is a gesture of life. Not killing is love for life. Not stealing is love for fairness. Not lying is love for truth. Not abusing sexuality is love for dignity. Not intoxicating the mind is love for clarity. Each one is a way of saying, may all beings be safe. May my actions cause no harm. This is what real spirituality looks like, not lofty philosophy, but everyday kindness, moment by moment. 16. The final freedom, beyond precepts. Here's the deepest secret. When awakening ripens, the precepts disappear not because you abandon them, but because they've become your nature. You no longer try not to harm, you simply can't. You no longer try to be honest, you are truth itself. At that stage, discipline becomes spontaneous. As the Zen masters say, the precepts are like a boat that was full for crossing the river, but once you reach the shore, you no longer need to carry it. Not until then, they're your compass, or Ika, or map through the storm. 17. The invitation. So the next time you hear about Buddhist rules, don't think of them as restrictions. Think of them as the art of freedom. Every precept is a doorway into clarity. The moment you live with awareness, integrity, and kindness, you're not following rules, expressing your true nature. The Buddha didn't give us laws, or he gave us love, shaped as guidance. And when you follow them with sincerity, you discover something miraculous. Freedom was never outside the rules. Freedom was waiting within them. If this reflection touched your heart, take a moment to pause. Reflect on which precept you want to live more deeply, not as a duty, but as a gift to yourself and the world. And share below, which precept challenges you the most? What does freedom mean to you now? Thank you for walking this path with mindfulness and courage. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and join this community of awakening hearts. Because every mindful act, every kind word, every restraint born of wisdom is another step toward the only freedom that matters, the peace that can never be taken away.